Hey everyone, my name is Dr. Harnoor Singh. I'm a physical therapist and a practitioner of movement. My background comes from a variety of experiences. As a practitioner, I've gotten to train as a yogi, dancer, gymnast, martial artist, and really get myself involved in different practices of movement. From a scholar standpoint, I've treated patients where I actually specialize in those exact populations of treating yogis, gymnasts, dancers. Today I'm really excited. I'm really excited because I get the chance to introduce to you guys what feels like one of the most important developments of neuroscience. When we look at what aspect of health feels the most important to us to preserve over the lifespan, many people at first would think that the number one factor that they wanted to maintain was their body. But recent surveys have shown that what we're most interested in is preserving brain function. So the question is, how can we start preserving brain function? Back in the day, most people would think that reading more books, doing crossword puzzles, finding out how to bring together different pieces in a puzzle format would help preserve brain function. So whenever individuals were being diagnosed with Alzheimer's, dementia, or other aspects of brain disease, cognitive decline, we would be consistently trying to give them word puzzles, different ways to engage the brain, mathematic equations. However, we've been learning more and more that the use of these modalities doesn't provide as much resiliency as we want. Doing puzzles only gets you better at puzzles, but it doesn't necessarily develop what we like to call neuroplasticity. So before I want to even give the idea of what develops neuroplasticity, I kind of want to define what neuroplasticity is. So neuroplasticity is the ability for the brain to change itself. The brain is set up where we have impulses where they want to talk to the body. A part of my brain says, hey, I want to move my left hand. A signal is sent from my brain down to my spinal cord into my hand, and then it moves. Neuroplasticity is the ability for the signal to go to a different part of the brain or start from a different part of the brain and go through a different circuitry to end up in that result. That's called a neural pathway. The more neural pathways we have, the finer the movement, the more ability and resiliency that the brain can develop. So bringing it back to that story of a person who's aging, a person who's experiencing this cognitive decline, we ask ourselves, what is the number one factor that they can use to develop this neuroplasticity in their brain and prevent cognitive decline? And for me as a physical therapist, it's so exciting. I'm sure you've even beaten me to the punchline. It's movement. And it's not any type of movement. It's not what you would call repetitive movement. So there are clear benefits in doing a proper workout, push-ups, pull-ups, or bench press, squatting. You get your heart rate up, you get the effects of muscle development, and you get your brain for sure working. So that aspect of neural pathway development is definitely there. However, the greatest bang for your buck is in the playful spirit. It's the opportunity to be able to learn new movement. It's the opportunity to play. So it's when we're developing new movement that we get the chance to really open the capacity of the brain. So what does that mean, development of new movement? Well, what that means is trying to obtain a new skill that you haven't had the chance to process completely yet. So for example, we use juggling often because not many people know how to juggle, but I want you to remember that juggling is just the container. It's what's within the container that's more important. We're using juggling, but it's not that juggling is the greatest movement ever, and that's what everyone needs to do right now is learn how to juggle. It's the fact that it's nuanced and the brain has to figure it out. So the front of my brain, this part of my brain, is involved in thought process. The back end of my brain is involved in balance, coordination. The sides of my brain are involved in sensory integration. And there's so much more that's involved in it. Whenever we're being involved in crossword puzzles, we're only using mostly the frontal lobe, the cognitive portion of our brain. But there's creative planning, there's kinesthetic awareness, there's so much that the brain is trying to figure out. And juggling, the opportunity to learn new movement encapsulates it all. So a person is going through trying to learn new movement, and their brain is lit up. And it's not only found in juggling, it's that it's this playful spirit as a whole. Somebody getting the chance to engage in new activity. So when we look at a child where they're experiencing the most rapid growth of their brain, they're not reading 7-8 books a week. Instead, what they're doing is they're trying to learn how to walk. They're trying to learn how to move this body. How do I move this body? So if we can maintain this conversation of how do I move this body, we get the opportunity to develop resiliency within our brain.